So hello again everybody, it's been a while. My name is Mike with Mike and Kate. I'm the lead videographer of the team, and today we're going to review Dehancer. So Dehancer is a film emulation plugin designed to infuse that film DNA into your images. It works pretty much like magic, and if you are someone like me who grew up in the 90s, you pretty much have seen most of the motion pictures, movies, and the pictures taken by your mom and dad with film. It's becoming a sought-after look nowadays with the film resurgence. The nostalgia that it brings when looking at film images just gives that more organic feeling, and just evokes more emotion to a person like me who grew up in the film era. Today we're gonna try to emulate film using Dehancer. So before we dive in, just a quick disclaimer: I am not being paid by Dehancer to do this review. All my opinions here are going to be just my own honest opinion, and at the end of the video I'll give you my opinion whether Dehancer is worth your money or not. So just a little bit of a background. I've been a videographer for the last 4 years. I have been shooting film exclusively for the last 3 years now, and I'm pretty familiar with how film looks. There's just that character that will remind you of the olden days when everything was shot on film, printed on paper, and everybody would look at it. There's just something about it. It's just I can't fully describe it, but the organic, artsy, or nostalgic. Let's just say the image looks more honest. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. So all my footage right here were filmed with the Lumix GH5 and GH5Ss. They were all filmed using Vlog. It just gives us more flexibility when grading our images. They are 10-bit, custom white balanced, so it's pretty much spot on. My workstation that I'm using right now is a Dell XPS 15. I bought this computer way back in 2018, so it's basically an old laptop now. It's got the 8th gen Intel Core i9 with 6 cores, and paired with the NVIDIA 1050 Ti Max-Q. The recommendations from Dehancer are as follows right here, and my workstation just falls into the bare minimum for this to run. We'll just do a quick tutorial on how to use Dehancer. If you want to run Dehancer much better, then you at least have to meet the base requirements or go beyond that. Because there was a time when I was testing out Dehancer and I was grading a series of footage, and Davinci basically just shuts down. I checked and reinstalled the plugin, and I just found out that it's not really the plugin that's messing it up. So Dehancer has a recommended node structure here, as you can see, but for this tutorial I'll use my own modified version of it, and let's apply grade there. So the only thing that I added is this one. It's the HSV, which will be the main node that I'll use for saturation. It's just, in my opinion, the better way to saturate your images without introducing some artifacts when you're boosting it quite a bit. I'll do the CST here first, so let's turn that off, give us more real estate. CST, and this is Panasonic V Gamut, and was shot in Vlog. It's Vlog L, but Davinci doesn't have the Vlog L Gamma. Davinci Wide Gamut and Rec 709. It's a good baseline, but the real magic is here with Dehancer. So we have to make sure that we put our source here, which is Davinci Wide Gamut and Rec 709, as recommended by Dehancer. And from here we can actually grade the footage without even manipulating these parts of the node tree. The way you can set up your HSV node is by clicking color space and clicking HSV here, and then with the channels just deactivate channel 1 and channel 3. So now when you slide the gain up, the saturation there will be increased or decreased to your liking. But before we do that, of course, we should expose our image first. So right here, Dehancer, let's do 1 because it's way underexposed. This tab is just sort of crowded, as you can see. So first things first, let's just turn these guys off, and we'll go one by one. And here, the film grain, I would suggest you disable this for a little bit, because even the simple film grain is processor intensive enough to slow your computer down. So just disable that and close this tab. Close that, this too, and we'll go through everything later. But this is the only thing that I would suggest you turn on. So first, turn the clipping indication on, and as you can see, this image is already highlighted in purple. That means the black points are crushed, the shadows are crushed right here. So let's go back here and expose the image. I might run out of sliders here, and this is a little too much for my liking, so I'll just go back to this part of my node tree in the contrast section. I'd like to use the HDR tool to expose my image. Overall exposure, okay. I'll just lift my shadows a little bit, just to a certain point right there. I think this is good. I'm probably gonna reduce the highlights a little bit here. Maybe there's fine. So yeah, the one thing that I noticed, if I overexpose my image, you see the clipping indicator doesn't indicate clipping in the highlights. It's only letting you know that you're crushing your shadows but not clipping on the highlights. So yeah, just be mindful of that. Okay, now that we've exposed our image here, I'm gonna boost my saturation just a little bit. And let's park it right there. That looks good to me. So before, after, oh, of course we should turn off the clipping indication here. All right, so far this is how far we've come. And up here we've already adjusted the exposure, the temperature, so I've custom white balanced this image. So let's go to film developer. So for example, there are times when you're shooting on a overcast day, and your image by default will be a bit more washed out compared to the one that has been shot on a sunset. So this will definitely help bring back the contrast and saturation that you've lost from that particular kind of lighting. So for this one, we'll just leave it as is. And to the film, which is the main part of this plugin, they just have a variety, a good variety. They have several photo film stocks, color negative and color positive ones, and some motion picture film stocks right here. By default, it would be on Kodak 250D. You can also push or pull your images, and basically when you're filming, you could over or underexpose your images, and then later in the film development part, you can expose your film stocks to the chemicals a bit longer or a bit shorter to sort of normalize your images. When you pull or when you push, the film characteristics, say the contrast and the color, like specifically color cast, could be introduced to your images. And this thing does just that. Look at this. Yep, if you push, added more contrast. If you pull, lower contrast, which is the usual thing that happens to a film when being pushed or pulled. Film is known for good highlight roll-off, and film compression is basically just that. So if I enable this one on default settings, if you keep an eye over here, so let's just zoom in so you can see. If I disable, pay attention to this particular area. So on, off. So yeah, it just gives you that better roll off compared to a digital image. The highlight just goes nuclear, but on film the roll off is just more soft, more pleasing in a way. So we'll just leave that enabled. Now when you expand, this is basically your contrast, and for this one we should probably be looking at our waveforms here. So our contrast is pretty much dialed in. So let's see if we added more to our black point. Whoa, okay. His suit is turning into black and we don't really want that. So yeah, let's just leave that disabled. It's not really helping at this point. And this is the other fun part. They have print film emulations, including the famous Hollywood film stocks here, the Fuji 3513 and the more popular Kodak 2383 film print emulations. So you can choose linear, which basically leaves the DNA of whatever film stock you've chosen, and if you want, you can. Okay, this looks okay. For the 2383, which is the more popular one in Hollywood, or this other one is the Kodak Endura glossy paper, and I kind of like it, so we'll use that. Now we can adjust exposure here again. Okay, maybe, whoops, just increase exposure a little bit there. Right there is fine. Tonal contrast, color density. So tonal contrast basically just adds and reduces contrast, but we'll just leave it as is. So color density just basically makes your image look more dense in those colors here without really introducing a lot of artifacts, kind of like the HSV node that we just made. So I'm pretty happy with this image. Color head. This is basically your printer lights, and just to demonstrate what this does, it just adds that color cast to your image. So for example, yeah, let's warm it up a little bit, and yeah, I'm just gonna play with the sliders just so you can see what it does here. I'm just exaggerating the effects here, but yeah, just a little bit of the yellow cast there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And the shadow tone, you can target the shadow areas. So, oh, okay. I kind of like warming this image up a little more in the shadows. About like that. So see, off, on, off, on. Yeah, it's pretty subtle, and I like that. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Now with the film grain. Okay, so there are some presets here, but for my taste, I'd like to go for go with a finer one. So let's go with the 65mm film 250. So it's a little more subtle, just so I can also see more texture on my image. And if you can see here, just I'm just running 15 frames, 14 frames, and just look at the difference it makes if we disable the film grain. 24. So you can see how much processing power it actually needs just to add the film grain effect here. But yeah, so when you're editing with Dehancer, it's best that you work with your film stock, your print film and everything before you start playing with the effects. So now that I'm finishing up, I'm gonna enable my film grain. And halation is a basically a color fringing that's introduced to in the film, in the back of the film. The purple and green fringing that we're used to seeing are optical color fringes, which happens because of the lens characteristics. And this one, there's that anti-halation filter at the back of the film stock that reflects that color. that therefore creates this red lining in the highlight areas of your image. So if we enable that, I don't know if we can't really see much. I don't know if you can see this, but there's some lining here. It's very faint, yeah, but it's mostly in the highlight areas of your image where there's a strong highlight. Yeah, you can't really see. I'll just leave it off. It's not really helping with my image anyway. So for the bloom, it's basically like a diffusion filter effect, and kind of like that. It's dreamy. Okay, let's leave it. And film damage is it's just those dirt that gets in contact with your film, like hair, dust, and scratches. This will show you that, but I think I'm nearing the limit of my GPU here, so I'm not going to activate that anymore. And film breadth is the minute changes in your film exposure. We don't really want that for this particular one. And gate weave is introduces this shake in your image when the film and the whatever that is called, I don't know, is not really straight, and the film stock or the film strip kind of shakes a little bit when it's getting winded. So it does that. And everyone's favorite vignette. Yeah, this could use a vignette. Let's leave it. That is pretty much it. I mean, I can't get a smooth real-time playback anymore because of the effects that I've just added here, but yeah. So this is before, after, before, after. So there we go. So now let's talk about the pros and cons of the plugin. So of course we'll start with the pros. The layout of the plugin is just very intuitive. So it's designed as if you're actually processing an actual film, where you would first, develop it, when select the film stock, and then print it, and then apply all the effects. And it's really nice that they put everything, the effects at the very last, because these are the most processor intensive part of the plugin. And the film options, there's just plenty. There's just a lot. And in their library, they say they have 64 film stocks, and so far I like the extensive library of film stocks. It's also nice that you have several print film emulations there, especially the famous Kodak 2383. The look of that is just so popular among filmmakers, and it gives you that Hollywood look. I like the controls because there's a lot of controls in here, a lot of sliders as you've seen, and it's giving you an almost raw-like controls, because you have several temperature controls here, white points, several exposure controls, contrast, tonal range and stuff. It's very good for fine-tuning your image a little further. I like working with sliders personally because at least it's repeatable. That's the thing that I kind of love and hate about Davinci, is that when I'm using the primaries, the heads, I can never dial it back exactly where it was because I don't have the tools for an advanced colorist. I'm just using this old mouse that I that I had since like 2013 or something. And the other good thing about Dehancer is that you can edit exclusively with just a plugin. The only thing that you'll probably need is to set up your CSTs to convert your images so that it will be more optimal for editing. Now with the film effects, like the grain, the halation, the bloom, I just love those. The grain, this is probably the best film grain that I've ever seen, because it just integrates it to your images a lot better than the built-in film grain effect from Davinci Resolve. It's like interpolated differently, as if it's really part of the image, and that's really a plus for this particular one. The film compression, again, I like that as well, because film has really good highlight latitude, and that allows us to mimic that good highlight roll-off. because digital, like I said, mid-tones, and then it's good, approaching highlight, good, and then it's just nuclear. Film doesn't do that. It's also nice that for the effects, we already have presets on them, like for 8mm, 16mm, 50, 250, and 500 ISO. As much as we want to customize everything to taste, I mean, sometimes it just takes a lot of time, and the presets just gives you a really good starting point. Now, I really appreciate this monitor function here, especially the clipping indication. It just helps you keep track of your black points and white points. You're not overexposing or underexposing your image way too much. And it also allows you to preview each progress that you make and check like the difference that you make in your image for each effect that you apply, like the film breath, you know, the halation, the film grain. You can just enable and disable. It's just a small thing, but I appreciate that. Now on to the cons. So I have shot on photography film stocks before, and some of the film stocks that I have tried are like Portra 400, Fuji C200, and Kodak Gold, which is one of my favorite film stocks for taking pictures. And I just noticed that it's not really 100% accurate, but well, it's not really a bad thing, because for me, at least, the way I work is that whatever looks good to my eyes, yeah, I'll just go with it, and it gets you like 90 to 95% to what the actual film would have looked like. But most definitely, the thing that I like is that it infuses a lot of that film character into it, like the film grain, the blooming of the image. The colors are there, but sometimes we still have to dial it up. But to be fair, sensors read light differently than celluloids, and celluloids, there's always that unpredictability about them. Now, I had mentioned previously that one of the strengths of Dehancer is being able to fine-tune your image with the number of controls built in here. I think that could also be a weakness, because there's just a huge number of sliders and some repetitive stuff in here, like contrast boost, and there's another contrast in the film print emulation part, tonal contrast. You know, it could just be confusing for somebody getting started with Dehancer. It's just a small issue, but definitely it could be overwhelming to someone with little to no experience with using film emulation plugins like this one. Give yourself some time, you're gonna get used to it, and you're gonna eventually develop a workflow. So one other thing that I noticed is that while their camera profiles are pretty extensive, there are still some that are not accurate here. I happen to be a Lumix, Panasonic Lumix shooter, and I just noticed that there is an S5 II camera profile here, but the picture profile is actually Vlog L, which is meant for the Micro Four Thirds. It could be fixed in a future update for sure, and I think it would also help if Dehancer added some of the non-log profiles here, but that's probably asking too much, but it would be nice to have. So that is it for this review. Overall, I like the plugin. I really like the images that I'm getting out of this plugin. It definitely gives that film look to my footage, and would I recommend it to you? Yes, absolutely, because if you're someone like me who's chasing after that filmic look, then Dehancer is definitely something that you need to check out. And for the price of $449, it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's worth it. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. Let us know what you want to see on this channel going forward. Leave them down in the comments below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.